This is the DJI Mini 4 Pro. It was time to upgrade from the Mini 3 Pro because it ended up in the lake. I'll explain that later. Let's go. Hopefully you enjoyed that B-roll montage, all filmed on the DJI Mini 4 Pro, and all the motion graphics and effects were actually from Motion VFX, which is the sponsor of this episode. More on that later. So a few weeks back, I was at the cottage filming with my Mini 3 Pro. I was doing some epic parallax shots on the lake when all of a sudden my Mini 3 Pro hit a reed and crashed. Now, being the Finnish Viking that I am, I decided I'm gonna go rescue that bad boy. I jumped in the water and try to swim and find the drone, but no luck. I think it might have sunk to the bottom. I didn't find it, it was gone. So it was only natural that I would upgrade my drone from the Mini 3 Pro to the Mini 4 Pro, which is why I'm making this video right now, the review of this drone. Out of all the different DJI drones, I've actually been the biggest fan of the Mini 3 series just because A, it's so small and compact, and B, I love the fact that you can film both landscape and vertical and make use of all the pixels because I create a lot of content for YouTube, but as well on Instagram for Reels. So I want to be able to film horizontal and vertically. So what is the DJI Mini 4 Pro packing? Well, it's that same 249 gram weight, lightweight, compact. You don't have to face all these different rules and regulations because it's under that 250 gram mark, depending obviously on what country you're from. It's got a 1/1/3 inch sensor, f1.7 aperture, and 48 megapixels for photos. And like I said before, you can film not only landscape, but as well vertical, which allows you to make use of all the pixels when you're filming your footage. Then here are some of the specs that have been added to the Mini 4 Pro that weren't in the Mini 3 Pro. This is a question that a lot of you guys were asking on Instagram stories. What makes it worth jumping from the Mini 3 Pro to the Mini 4 Pro? Well, let me tell you. In the Mini 4 Pro, we now have 4K 100 frames per second, which is pretty dang epic if you're filming some sort of action sports or movement. We got upgraded low light performance with the dual native ISO fusion. We also got extended battery life. With the standard battery, you're gonna get 34 minutes of flight time, which is just crazy. The Mini 4 Pro also got an upgrade in transmission. It's using the DJI O4, which has a max range of 20 kilometers. As well, we now have the omnidirectional obstacle sensors, which would have saved me with the Mini 3 Pro because I was parallaxing sideways and the sensors couldn't see the reeds and all of a sudden it crashed, whereas now this sees all around and you're not gonna crash into anything. I think that feature alone is worth upgrading to the Mini 4 Pro because it's gonna stop you from crashing your drone like what happened to me with the Mini 3 Pro. So definitely if you're right now considering should you get the Mini 3 Pro or Mini 4 Pro, fork out the few $100s extra for the Mini 4 Pro because in the long run, you're actually gonna save yourself money. I was actually doing a lot of tests with that and I was flying through this forest and it would just sense all the trees and just avoid those trees, which is really cool. Or if you have the braking mode, it's just gonna brake all of a sudden if it feels like it's gonna crash into something, which is really crazy. Also with the Mini 4 Pro, we have the feature called cruise control. If you haven't heard about this, it's a game changer. My Sensei drone friend, Philip, actually shared this with me. Basically, there's this feature called cruise control, which you can set to a custom button on your controller. And what that means is you can set your speed and movement with your joysticks, press cruise control, let go, and it's just gonna keep going. So for example, if you wanna get that perfect parallax around something, instead of having to perfectly hold the joysticks for that long circle, you can just set it for a little bit, press cruise control, and it's gonna keep going. Or if you wanna press, cruise control moving forwards, and then while it's moving forwards, you have to only control the joystick to get a nice tilt pan shot. So it definitely makes the experience a lot easier with cruise control. As well, in the Mini 4 Pro, we have an updated active track. And if you're filming yourself alone, there's 3 features that you can use to get really great footage. You got spotlight, point of interest, and active 360 track. With the active 360 track, you can literally just swipe a path on the interface and then the drone is gonna follow that path around you, which is really crazy. As well, now when you're done flying, you come back, there's this really cool AI route mapping, which has this nice green pathway that allows you to know where to go back. And as well, when you're landing downwards, it's gonna show you exactly where it's gonna land on the ground, which it can be handy if you're, maybe landing into a boat or into tight quarters. It's gonna land right there on that mark on the ground. So nice new features that they've added into the Mini 4 Pro. It's all these kind of features that just make the flying experience that much more enjoyable with DJI drones. The DJI Mini 4 Pro with the RC N2 controller is gonna cost you $759. And then if you don't wanna fumble with attaching your iPhone to your controller, you can get the RC2 controller, which will then cost $959. Which is still, in my opinion, incredibly affordable, because back in the day, you would literally have to hire your own private helicopter to get aerial shots. And now with this little tiny guy, you can get epic 4K footage wherever you want to go. So that was all the specs about the Mini 4 Pro, but what was the actual real life experience of flying and capturing footage with the Mini 4 Pro? We're gonna dive that into just a second, but first I want to give a shout out to this episode's sponsor, and that's Motion VFX. All the effects, the motion graphics, the text in the intro throughout this video are from Motion VFX. And in my opinion, Motion VFX are the best plugins for Final Cut Pro and DaVinci. So if you're a recent escapee from the land of Premiere and you've recently adopted Final Cut Pro or DaVinci into your editing workflow, I would highly recommend checking out Motion VFX, because literally they have the best plugins and they're gonna save you so much time in order to create high quality content. In this video alone, I used the M-Film matte pack to create the light leaks, the grain, and the cool cinematic film border in the video. Then I used MKBHD's own channel toolbox to create constant zooms, and as well the intro text in the video for the Mini 4 Pro review text. I used mCallout specs for all the different specs about the Mini 4 Pro, and then all those cool texts that I tracked to different buildings showing off the specs of the Mini 4 Pro, that was made with mTracker Surface. Now, if I was to manually create all those different motion graphics, effects, and text in my videos, it'd literally take hours, or probably days to create. But with Motion VFX, it's literally just drag and drop, change the duration, make a few customizations with text, fonts, and colors, and all of a sudden it's ready, voila. And right now, Motion VFX has a Black Friday sale that you're not gonna wanna miss out. Using code 30BLACK, you can get 30% off all the plugins on their website. And then until December 4th, each week, they're gonna be releasing 4 different packs for 50% off. So if you've been eyeing different plugins now for a while, this is your chance. Use the link in my description. I do get a small kickback, so I do appreciate your support of my channel, and use the code 30BLACK to get your 30% off. Thanks again, Motion VFX, for sponsoring this episode and being a partner of my channel. So what was the actual real life experience of flying with the Mini 4 Pro and capturing footage? Well, I gotta say, for a drone that only weighs 249 grams, the flying experience was actually really solid. Now, mind you, I'm not flying in 60-kilometer winds like Iceland has. It's relatively calm here in Finland, but it was freezing cold out there, and the Mini 4 Pro actually flew very well. I felt very comfortable and very confident while I was flying. I wasn't worried about whether or not I was gonna crash because of the 360 obstacle avoidance. I knew that it's gonna break or avoid whatever I was about to crash into. As well, I found with this controller and the Mini 4 Pro, the range was really good. Sometimes with the Mini 3 Pro, I was finding that the transmission was cutting out or was a little bit choppy, but with this, I was flying very far away and it was super smooth. And having that good transmission just gives you that confidence in your drone, because there's nothing worse than flying in a sticky situation, maybe with trees or branches, and all of a sudden it's cutting out. You don't know what's gonna happen. You wanna know where you're flying and what's ahead of you. And that's why it's super important to have good range and transmission with the controller and the drone. Having the extended flight time was also really nice. Even though the weather was cold, the batteries held really well. And it's really nice just to not have to worry about constantly lifting up and down your drone, changing batteries. Instead, I was able to just focus on getting the shots that I needed. Especially when you're filming solo, you're doing a lot of running back and forth, getting to position, and a lot of times your drone's just hovering in the air, and you don't want the battery to run out all of a sudden in the middle of a shot. Personally, I haven't used waypoints or active track too much before, but now as I was working with it, it was actually really fun. It didn't work perfectly all the time with active track, but when it did, it really was cool what kind of shots you could get. When it comes to image quality, again, I'm always amazed by the DJI drones. You know, the fact that back in the day, you literally have to hire a helicopter to take you out to take aerial shots. And now instead, you can just take out this 249 gram drone in the air and get nice 4K footage is just unbelievable. The 4K 60 frames per second looked really high quality and smooth, and 4K 100 frames per second was really high quality, and I can imagine it being really epic for the right activities. Me running at full speed is not so epic, but I had to try. When it comes to low light capabilities, I was really impressed with the Mini 4 Pro. I was testing shots at ISO 1600, 3200, 6400, and even 12,800. Okay, I do admit that at 12,800, it started getting a little bit mushy, but I would definitely use footage from 1600, 3200, and even 6400. And this is because of the dual native ISO fusion. This new technology allows to have more detail in the highlights and the shadows without all the noise. 10-bit D-Log-M gave you a nice blank canvas for color grading. This is what the footage looks like with the D-Log-M profile, and then when you add the D-Log-M conversion LUT, and as well now with one of my CinemaLut collection grading LUTs. If you haven't had a chance to check out my CinemaLut collection, I'll make sure to card it up here for you to check out. The collection consists of 10 high quality grading LUTs and then one conversion LUT for S-Log3 footage from Sony. But that doesn't mean these grading LUTs only work for Sony. They work for all cameras. I've been using them on DJI footage, Apple Log, Sony, GoPro, you name it. I've tested these LUTs with all sorts of cameras and they work well. So check them out because I know you're gonna love them for your color grading workflow. My arm was getting tired of holding the drone up, so I'm just gonna put it down here on the table. When it comes to shooting photos with the DJI Mini 4 Pro, I didn't have a chance to shoot too many, but here are a few photos that I shot. And first thoughts are that with the 48 megapixels, the photos look really great. And I love the fact that you can take not only landscape photos, but as well vertical photos for Instagram. Just look at this before and after I took of this photo. Looks pretty dang epic to me. Now at this point, you're probably asking, well, what is wrong with the Mini 4 Pro? Are there any downsides, or am I just sponsored to say all the good things about this drone? Once again, this video is not sponsored by DJI in any way, but it is sponsored by Motion VFX. But in my honest opinion, at this price point for $759 and all the specs that you're getting in the Mini 4 Pro, I don't know what else could you ask for. I would love to hear from you guys. What else would you want to see in a drone? But in my opinion, this drone serves you well. Of course, if I was doing professional commercial work or if I was filming in really extreme conditions, I probably wouldn't bring the Mini 4 Pro. You'd need a more heavy duty drone like the Mavic 3 Pro or the Inspire. But for someone who's a content creator or creating videos for small businesses, the Mini 4 Pro is definitely going to do the job for you. So who would I recommend the Mini 4 Pro? Well, I would definitely recommend this drone for anyone who wants to get into the world of aerial photography and videography, for anyone who's a content creator and needs the ability to film both landscape and vertical, and, well, anyone who just wants an affordable drone and get good footage. The Mini 4 Pro is for you. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Mini 4 Pro. I'd love to hear your guys' comments, so share with me below. What do you think about the Mini 4 Pro?